Hi, my name's Julie Hartley, and I'm going to be reading from the opening section of my novel, The Finding Place. On our last holiday as a family, the sun just shone and shone. It was March break, and we were staying in Mexico, in a jungle town where all the buildings were yellow. Houses, shops, everything, all a glorious sunshine yellow. Carriages rumbled along the cobbled streets, pulled by horses with flowers in their manes. One of them stopped for us. Dad lifted Mom and me onto the cushioned seat and jumped up beside us, singing his nonsense English songs the entire time. The driver started to sing loudly in Spanish to drown out Dad's song. Dad sang even louder, then the two of them looked at each other and laughed. Their laughter echoed on and on, like it was never going to end. Our ride finished in front of a monastery that had yellow walls and beautiful arches with vivid yellow crosses on the top. Dad leapt to the ground. He handed Mom down as if she were a queen, then swung me through the air like I was a little kid again. He took my hand and ran with me across the road to buy me a mango on a stick. Someone had carved the fruit to look like petals on a rose. Later we climbed a pyramid together, struggling upward through the heat. The pyramid was crumbling and very old. It stood in the centre of town, with the yellow monastery behind, and jungles stretching in all directions. Jeweled lizards stared up at us from the warm stones as we climbed. There was a boy at the top of the pyramid, all alone. He was maybe 8 or 9 years old, and he was flying a kite, a homemade one, plastic garbage bags at the end of a length of twine. The kite was riding a current, way up above the pyramid, over the rainforest and the magical yellow town. He looked so sure of himself, that boy, staring upward with a wide smile on his face, as if it wasn't a plastic bag kite at the end of his string, but the whole world. Maybe that's why I asked the question again, right then, because that boy seemed like the opposite of me. Who are my birth parents, Dad? Sometimes I feel like I don't know who I am. He could have repeated what they usually said every time I asked. That I had been found when I was 1 day old, outside a village school somewhere in Guangxi, China. Left there probably because I was a girl and my birth parents needed a son to help them in the fields. He could have told me again that I'd only had an orphanage to call home for the first few months of my life, until he and Mom came to adopt me. But that day, up on top of the pyramid, Dad said something different, something I won't ever forget. "Look at this boy flying his kite," he whispered, leaning close. "What do you see? A regular Mexican kid who lives in a yellow town built by the Spaniards. But look again." We all looked in silence at the boy, his head turned to the sky. He isn't just Mexican, this child, he's Mayan as well. His ancestors built an empire, cities in the jungle, and pyramids like the one we're standing on. They were artists, warriors, thinkers. Does he know any of this in a way he could explain? Maybe not, but it's still part of him deep inside. The sun beat down on our heads, and everything shimmered. "Kelly, it's the same with you. You're Chinese in the way this boy is Mayan. It's inside of you and always will be. Each of us is filled with mysteries we cannot begin to understand." Dad made me feel so important that day. No longer lost because I didn't know where I came from, but strong because there was so much inside of me waiting to be discovered. And just as this boy had his regular life as a Mexican kid, so I had my Canadian life with Mom and Dad. When I think of our family, I often think about that afternoon on top of the pyramid, the 3 of us holding hands, those lizards gazing at us from the stones, and the small boy who seemed so big, reaching up above the jungle and the town, holding the world on the end of a string.